Hi folks, Flying Doctor here. I've done a lot of tutorials on how to get our heads around the Autopilot system. Let's not forget this is a beta project. There's still one or two rusty areas to work at, but it's a superb aircraft, isn't it? So yes, the H145, and I thought some of you may well be interested in how to perform an ILS approach. I mean, there's a question to say, why would you? You're in a helicopter and not in a fixed wing aircraft. An ILS approach is typically reserved for fixed wing aircraft. Helicopters can fly everywhere, and I'm not too sure about the ability of helicopters to fly in bad weather with poor visibility, but they have all the this H145 has all the sort of systems to be able to do that, to navigate, give you all the details you need. But nonetheless, I thought it is quite interesting to sort of be able to follow a flight path and land in an airport, much like you would do with a plane. And the first thing I want to say to you is that you're not going to get guided down right to the ground for some reason. And I suspect much the same as it would be if you were in an aircraft, that the ILS becomes less reliable the closer you are to the ground, and the expectation is you'll have visual sight. So you'll come from a period of bad weather, and of course you've got a decision height beyond, below which, or at the point of decision fight, you have to decide whether you're going to land. So what I found is that the ILS tends to go a little bit haywire, and you'll lose the glide slope. It will revert back to where your collective is, which means that you'll either, if you're very lucky, you'll maintain your height, but if you're unlucky, you'll either go straight down or straight up quite rapidly. But it will give you an approach in to an airport, and access therefore to some of the scenic views that some of the renowned approaches out there have. Anyway, so it is possible to do, and I thought I'd just demonstrate how that might be. First thing I'm going to do is to go to the Navimap that I've got prepared. I have a Navimap here. And I've talked about this before, but I'm going to do this really, really quickly, just in case you've not seen do it. So Navimap. And when you've got it all set up and you've connected to the flight simulator, if you want to connect to the flight simulator, click on Tools. You can click on the top there on Flight Simulator Connection, click on Connect, and it will connect there. Then you've got, we're at Dundee, and what I've done is I've spotted that Dundee and I think it's Luchars here, the Airbase, are quite quick to each other, so I'm hoping to quite close to each other. I'm hoping to move from one to the other really quickly by setting up a flight plan and come in via the ILS here. So GPS around here using a flight plan, and ILS course here, so we'll be able to show switching between the two. So I'm just going to really quickly put a flight together. Right click there, set airport as departure. There's a way marker there, PNMO1. I'll add that to the flight plan. I've got a visual reference point there, Broughty Castle. Add that to the flight plan. I've got no idea what this looks like, by the way. I've got a way marker here, PN27F. Add that. PN27I. Add that. And now I could come right all the way out here, but that's a decent amount of, wow, that's kind of, yeah, we could come into this one and turn in. But I'm going to be quite ambitious. I'm going to come in earlier here, or I may even create a waypoint that's just right here on the edge of the ILS. So the way to do that is to create a user point there. Click on user point, add user point here. I'm going to identify it as ILS, so that's what will appear under the waypoint name, I do believe. So that's given me an ILS waypoint. That's given me a waypoint there. I can add the user point to the flight plan like that, and then because I'm just interested in DBS, I can then click on the airport here, Luchars Airport, and I should be able to. Now it's asking me to add the position to the flight plan. I had this before. I think it's to do something odd to do with well, let's see if that one works with just the layout here. So it's just inviting me to add position to the flight plan. I don't want to add position to the flight plan. It gives me a little bit of an opportunity just to advertise something else. So if you go on to search, so I think that is under tools. No, it's not. No, it's not there. Window, sorry, be under window, under search. There you go. And you can see I put EGQL there anyway, but if I type it up there, EGQL, it's there. Right click on that, set it as destination, and there we are. And we've completed our flight plan. Okay, I'll just take that off. Right, now, so what we've got two things here. We've got a flight plan we need to get into the sim. There's two ways of getting into the sim. You can do it via the menu pages on the way in. Somebody was writing to me about that and I replied in one of the comments. There is a button called that's called More when you can plan your departure on the departure planning page. If you click on More, I think the next page gives you an opportunity to load or save, and then you can load a flight plan in there. What do you load it from? Well, if you go to File here, go to Export Flight Plan as FMS 2020 plan, click on that. You'll find it's asking for a start position, because if I were loading this into the Microsoft Flight Simulator, it wants a start position. The start position is runway 9. Happen to know that. Click on that and off you go. You'll see that at the bottom here you've got a PLN format plan, and that's a full name there. Dundee EGPN to Luchars Airbase. Okay, EGQL. I can save that anywhere and I can load that into the sim via the Microsoft Flight Simulator pages as I'm planning the route, but I'm not going to do this. You can see I'm in a different folder here. I'm actually in my community package for the PMS 50. If you go into that package, that is the PMS 50 freeware for the GTN 750, or I would say I'm not using the freeware here, I'm using the payware. But the GTN 750 gives you a folder called Flight Plan, and then another folder again is a GTN 750 plan, and inside that you will find the one file, and it's called fpl.pln. That's the old version of it. You can see I've kept that there and renamed it, because essentially if you save this file name as the fpl.pln, you'll be able to load it into the GTN 750, which has lots of advantages. Okay, so there's more tutorials available on using Navigraph. The one hint I would give you is if you are using Navimap, do not try to be clever. Although you have the options of the AREC codes for Navigraph, I would suggest that you do not use the Navigraph database. There's plenty of reasons for using Navigraph, but one of the problems that you can get to is Navigraph gives you more waypoints, for example, and is out of date compared to Microsoft Flight Simulator, and you get a mismatch between the two. I know you'll probably be able to tell me that there's ways of updating that, but I found that too many times you get a mismatch between the two, and one of your waypoints will not appear in your flight plan. So the best thing is just to keep things straightforward, and then you can then you are able to import the flight plan with the way markers. I've just spotted a problem here actually. I've just spotted, for example, that WP1 it's down. I right clicked on that. What I needed to do was to click on PNM01, then right click on it, then add it to, I'm going to add it to the flight plan, and then I can remove WP1. Okay, so I'll just right click on WP1 having highlighted it, and then it's delete selected legs or procedure. So I'm just going to collect that. Oh, you get to see me how easy it is to correct things as well. I'm just going to quickly correct that one. Click on PN27F, so it comes up. Right click on it, add 27F to flight plan, remove WP2. I can press delete there. I don't need WP1 either. WP1 is Broughty Castle, so we're all right with that. I wonder if Broughty Castle will come up if I clicked it close enough, and I can remove that. I right click on there. Oh, I can add user point Broughty Castle there and remove one. Okay, so you can see me remove. You can highlight it and just press delete to remove anything. So I'm just correcting that for us now. So I've now effectively got a new flight plan. That's there, all straightforward. That's in. I've got a new flight plan. There we are. Oh no, we don't want to do that. We really didn't want to do that. Delete flight plan. It's just I clicked by mistake in the middle. There you go. Silly me. There we are. And now so it's file, export flight plan, select start position. Yes, I'll do that. Runway 09. comes up with the dialog screen. I don't want that. I just want the flight plan file. Click on that, save it. Yes, of course it already exists. There we are. So, long way round, but there you go. Right, okay, let's jump into the sim. And we will just have a quick look here. So, yeah, I am now down. I've set my 3 screens up as I usually do. And here we go. What we're going to do is we're going to import the flight plan. Okay, so I click on flight plan on the PMS GTN 750. I don't have to click origin or anything like that. Go to menu, go to import. Do I want to import that flight plan? It's recognised what it is. Yes, I do. There you go. You've actually got an option to save the flight plan, to store it there later on, but we won't bother doing that. There's my flight plan there. Okay, there's my map here. If I click on map, remember there's a decent tutorial on the GTN 750, so I won't go over any of that. But if I zoom out, you can see exactly where I am. Okay, up here, you can see that I am selected DMAP here. There's NavAid. I'm gone with NavAid because I want to input the nav. If I click the nav source, it changes at the top. That's the key. You have to remember that for later, because this is dictating at the top what nav source you're showing. Not following, showing. Okay, we're going to stick to FMS there. And also down here you've got the nav source that you wish to show on the compass rose. And again, FMS2 there. It cycles round. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now the second thing is if you are using Navigraph or if you're using Navimap, you can follow the Navimap frequency. Always it's worth double checking. And we've inputted the ILS. And let's just go back to our Navimap, and we can see here, if we look closely, we can see here the feather in for our arrival, and the ILS frequencies, which is the nav frequencies that you want the aircraft to follow, together with some bearing data and the glide slope, which is always helpful, are written down here. So this entry here at least is saying 108.55. Okay, so we need to, what I tend to do is set it from this first and then check it later, because there's more data that's available from Navigraph if you've got it, that will help you with your setting and making sure that you are at the right altitude when you come in. But for the moment we need to put 108.55 down as a nav1 source. Okay, and the reason for that is that we're going to come in on GPS, which is FMS1, and then we're going to switch round here at this marker ILS, and we're going to switch to a nav source that will send the data to the aircraft about the height that it needs to be at as it is descending. Okay, so it's 108.55 according to this. So I'm going to jump back in the sim here. Okay, here we are, and if you looked at the other tutorial before, all straightforward. 108.55. You click on the standby 108.55, type that in, press enter, and I don't need any other nav1 source at the moment, so if I click on the top nav1 source it will change, and if you're lucky it will say ILU DME. Okay, right, so the next thing is that we could do with a little bit more information. And what we're going to do is we could either do it on either of the screens here. We're just going to check on Navigraph, because the thing that you have to be aware of is that when you are making the flight, you need to be at the right height. You don't want to arrive at your ILS marker too high and then have to rapidly descend, because you're wanting to be in a corridor of descent. So what you're wanting to do, and I can demonstrate it here as we look at the maps themselves, you want to be at the right altitude when you come in. So Luchars, that's where we'll be. Did you see how I managed to do that? Just go to the flight plan there. I've asked for waypoint info. It's taken me to view charts. And what's going to happen now is that when I select the approach that I might need, I mean, I can select information about the airport here, and it comes up via Navimap there. So there you go. So we can zoom right in, and you can actually enlarge that. So I can't go in any closer on the way I've done this at the moment. Okay, so that's a kind of broader map there, but we're after an approach in, so we're going to select approach, and we know it's 27, don't we, or 26 or something like this. So there's a ILS DME runway 26. That'll be us. We'll have that there. Okay, and there's a page full of data here. Now I can go to full screen, which is probably not a bad idea, and I can zoom in. And what that'll do is it will confirm. Can you see that I've got lots of data in the front here? Main thing I've got is the localizer data, which is 108.55. We obviously are confirming the approach, and lots of other data for us here. Now the key one is that I find that when I was talking, as well as to having the ILS frequency, is that this is giving you a chart of what height you need to be in order to set this corridor here of this corridor. If I zoom right in, of there we are, that'll do for us, won't it? This sort of corridor we need to be in. So there's a little kind of checker mark there, and it's saying that that's 1,500 feet. Okay, at that point. Now if we arrive later, we're going to have to be lower, and it's got, you can estimate, and it's written out in other cases how low you have to be in order to kind of hit it. Now if you're outside of that, you won't find you may not find the ILS frequency, but B, you'll find you'll have to rapidly descend, and that will not be ideal. So yes, I know that the golden figure for me at F126 is 1530. Now I can just check this in the flight plan map here, because we do happen to have F126 as one of our markers. But we also know there's the ILS marker. If you remember, I put that in that way marker that we turn there. But we know that when we get to FT126, we need to be at 1,500 feet. Okay. Now, therefore, unless you're flying in a really, obviously, a mountainous area, or unless you're flying throughout when you've got some tall buildings, you're going to set your altimeter. Remember to set your altimeter to around 1,500 feet, or remember that you need to be at 1,500 feet. So that's pretty simple to do. We go to Alt A, shall we, here? Although I am finding that Alt A is not working like I would think it should be for me, but I can go to Alt A and I can increase Alt A. You can see it at the top here, it's just coming up. There you go, right there. So if you're new, okay, the Alt A adjustments, we're going to do speed as well. You'll find that you'll get a little dialog box if you don't get if you don't get a little marker on here, and that'll tell you what your altitude or your set speed will be. So I'm coming down here, and I'm doing this in manually using the knobs here, but I'm going to go up to 1,500 here. Okay, so I know that's what I'm going to be. And if I was flying, I could change this within the tablet as well, but I'm not flying at the moment. The other thing is, it's just worth, before you do the takeoff, obviously setting down what your speed would be. That's IAS. I'm not looking for a hugely rapid speed, but I'm going to give it about 80 knots, 90 knots. Just give it 90 knots. There we go. And you can see that I've tweaked the IAS button here, and it's appeared there. And that means that things are getting pretty sorted for us as we lift off. So there we go. So what we will need to do is, if I click on the nav here, you'll see we're on FMS GPS. So if I click once, always worth checking this, ILS 1. Now we are not on this frequency ILS 1. We are on ILS 2, and you can see it's come up as purple. I don't know how it comes up as purple. I suspect that it sees that this is in the flight plan. And so what's going to happen is that we're going to travel around on FMS at 1,500 meters, 1,500 feet, sorry. And then when it gets to this way marker that is down here, which on the edge, or on our map, was on the edge of way on the edge of the ILS kind of beacon signal, we're going to switch over to our ILS frequency, and that we would do by going to nav here and ILS 2, and again we would change it here to ILS 2. Okay, and you can see that it's actually pointing at us, because we shall be doing that on the return leg. Okay, and there's no kind of detail as to like how far off course we are, because we're not actually in the air flying yet. So yeah, so that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to lift us up and hopefully we'll demonstrate nice and quickly what's going on. I've not made the conditions too challenging at the moment, but the whole point is that that we look for conditions that, you know, we're able to do this in conditions where visibility is harder. I just did want to do a big shout out. You can just see there's a little bit of green there. Just a little shout out here because we are at Dundee Airport. But also we are using the Hero 145 HEMS Action Pack, and that is really nice. And there it is from Flight Sim TO. Congrats to Whiskey 68, who in turn thanks Firebirds, who's been incredibly helpful. Kind of quite a vibrant green livery going on here, and well, you don't need to click there. Because we can have a look outside the sim, just can't we? Just as we're just sort of sat here, let's just have a look outside some external views. Let's just have a look, or maybe not. No, I've not. Oh, I'll do it manually. Why not? So if you want your external views, click on camera here. It's because I've exported and there we are. There's our external views. Lovely Hero helicopter there. Congratulations there. Right, okay, less of this because we're actually here to fly in the aircraft, but I did think it was just important to acknowledge that. Okay, right, here we go then. So let's lift ourselves up now, remembering once again, as soon as I get up in the air, and it will yaw a little because I'm being lazy, I'm not actually applying the pedal much at the moment to stop the yaw, and then I'll switch into hover mode. So up we go, up. It'll take its time. Up we go. As soon as we get a readout there, on into hover mode. There we go, and that just gives us time to have a look and see what's what. Okay, so we're in hover mode now. We just need to get into our correct sort of navigation mode. Now, for some reason, when you switch on to the nav, you can end up, we're not going to be on ILS2, are we? We're on FMS. So there we are, FMS there and FMS there. So you can see that we're off course at the moment because the compass rose at the beginning of there. The line is coming right across us. Now, I could just press nav, but when I've done that before, I found that the sim can be a little bit erratic and the helicopter can start spinning. So I'm nice to it. I'm just going to yaw around here. Shouldn't have to do this, it should automatically do it. But then if I click on nav here, it will link, and there we are, our nav's gone green. And you can see what I'm saying, that is just a small move, isn't it? So when they're facing down the runway, remember that we've already popped in our IAS, our speed. We've dialed that in for 90. When we press IAS there, off we go, and we'll follow the course. We'll be able to see where the aircraft is, of course, because from this middle screen here, but also up here as well. So let's just click on IAS and see where we get to. There we are. I'm just lifting up on the collective just to... And also I have clicked the altitude button as well, so we're now ascending. So this is now following the flight for us. Apologies if things look a little bit juddery, I never quite know. But there's Dundee Airport. This is stock, unless I'm wrong, I do apologise if I'm, this is stock Dundee for Microsoft Flight Simulator. But I'm also running the GB North. What you're seeing here is also the GB North pack as well from Orbix. So yeah, here we go. We can see where we are. We can see where the aircraft is here. Never a bad idea to switch back to Navigraph. You can just see what things are doing, what's happening. Navimap, sorry, I get Navimap and Navigraph confused all the time. Yeah, so this is GB North here, and I've yet to see. I was a bit disappointed. I think I've yet to sort of see what I think of the scenery straight away. Just commenting on that, I mean, I can see something wrong there with the bridge, with one thing laid over and the other. What Orbix don't do is provide a list of exactly what they have put in and what is not there. But suffice to say, yes, this is Orbix GB North. So we're following. You can see the route we're following. You see the background's gone black as well, which is telling us that we haven't got, you know, any obstacles to be worried about for the moment. So I say it's gone black, but there you are. So what I'm talking about is the central screen here, and yeah, there's the scenery. And I don't know, it's more like points of interest are added. But yeah, I'm just having a look down there to see what is going on. Something looked to be going along all the way out of that bridge. It looks all right now. Don't know. Anyway, so there we are. We can see the I've just discovered, therefore, what Alt-A does. So what Alt-A does is you type in Alt-A, or you dial it in, and when you reach that altitude, the aircraft will hold at that altitude. I think I'm just going to try and play with that. Yeah, see now the collective is not having any, and it's locked on. Things you learn. So yeah, Alt-A sets the altitude you want it to be at. You increase your height. When you arrive at that altitude, the Autopilot Alt just simply kicks in. Here we are. So I need to mention that because we're still working out what's going on. Okay, there we go. We're still just making our way around. Decent amount of time. I think we could do is, I'm interested to see if Broughty Castle actually looks like a castle. Should be right below us. Can't help myself. Let's go external again. Have we got a castle down there? Oh! I think that's a castle. A bit more like a ruin. I don't know. I don't know what Broughty Castle looked at. Anyway, we'll go back. This is the crude way of getting to switch your views around, but never mind. Not really worried about that. There we are on our course there. We can increase the speed. Two ways of doing it. You can dial it in down here, or you can just use the IS tablet here, marker on the beat trim, or you can program and use your beat trim. I'm going to increase the speed up to 120 knots now because we've got an outward leg to come and land in Luchars there. So if you remember, now you won't have some of these features, but the same principle works if you were just to load this flight plan into this. If you were to load this flight plan as it's laid out into the sim with these markers, the markers won't show. But if you're working with the way mark, you know, so the added markers, the user markers that I've had, that ILS wouldn't show. But you would come in either you'd have to come in here or here. But you can just see where we are. I think you can see where we are. There we are. And yeah, so we're having a nice merry flight now. There we go. Of course, you can get Navigraph on the tablet as well. I find that the slight disadvantage with that is you pull off the autopilot screen. I mean, the autopilot settings will remain, but you know, I still like to have the autopilot settings on the tablet. There's something interesting here. I'm sure you can see that once you set the Navigraph up, you'll see that we're appearing over the map. Isn't that cool? Yeah, it is cool. Trust me. So we're going to take a right-hand turn just now. We know that's happening. On the flight plan itself, we can see that going on. And we are going now to PN We've just come out of PN 275 and then we're heading for ILS, this marker here. Well, the marker you can see on, let's just go in. There's the ILS marker, so we're heading for that. As I say, not all these features are available in the free version, but this would you wouldn't have the luxury of being able to plan the marker, but you would be able to use a standard waypoint. The advantage of coming into a marker that you put in right on the threshold of the ILS, as laid out on Navimap, is that it gives you more time. And since we're just trying to sort things out at the moment, I'm just making sure I've got time. So what's going to happen is that as we approach the ILS, I may as well just switch across and show on the Navmap screen. So as we approach the ILS marker here that I've put in for myself, as we approach this green thing, I'm going to slow right down. Down we go. Because I don't want to be approaching too fast. I'm going to hit something like 60 knots. We've got plenty of time and we can increase our speed later. So I'm just increasing just to give me more time. And I know that I'm about to switch over into the green because I'm actually going to be naturally following. I'll be naturally following this line that is the GPS course anyway. What I have got sorted is that my height is acceptable, so we're going to see a turn. Any moment we're going to see a turn, and that's the point where I'm going to switch over from the GPS frequency to NAV1. We're at 60 knots, as you can see. We know where we're headed. And we can see up there 0 minutes left, 0.2, 0.1 nautical mile, and we should see a turn. There's the turn. As I say, so we're following a GPS course, but we've fixed the altitude to give us a time and luxury just to be able to see whether we can pick an ILS signal up. Okay, and there's the runway in front of us. Okay, now we are low at the moment, considering how far out we are. Now let's just see what we can find. If I click on Nav1, if you remember, ILS 1, 108.55, Nav2, 110.50. Now somehow it's moved to 110.05. We want 108.55. 108.55. Now somehow this has moved here. Always worth checking. Don't know why it's done that. We want 108.55. So I'm changing the nav. There we go. Enter that. And switch to change it. So we've got 108.55 in the GTN 750 unit. 108.55 is checked here on the NAVD, and we're going to switch over here to 108.55 on the ILS. Now I know that I'm approximately, you can see that I'm off course. It's picked up a signal. Clearly it's picked up a signal, you can see, because of the over the compass road we've got this gap, so we need to turn into that line. Click on couple. There we go. Now I'm just observing. Previously, when I've managed to do this, it's just sorted itself out naturally from here. So I'm approaching FT 26. Now I can tell that from Navimap that I'm looking at, but I can also tell it by looking down here. So again, FT 26. What does FT 20? Is there an FT 26 on here? Let's just come out a bit. There we are. As you just saw, sorry, you just saw. You might have seen something happening. We want to play it back, but we've now we if we compare our, sorry, I'm not being clear. If we compare our where we are in our flight, the little marker here, we're now on the glide slope, and we are slowly. You can see here up the top here, it's moved to glide slope. Okay, the alts come off, glide slope, localizer, and speed is set. Okay. So what's now happening is that we're following this localizer, and that will take us to the runway, to the bottom of the runway. We're taking our time. I'm minded just to allow the speed to increase a little bit. We'll increase to 80 knots. Bearing in mind, of course, this is a right pain to other traffic, because other traffic's going to be moving far faster. So we can, once you can get a grip of actually how long it takes to reduce your speed down in reality, but we can allow our speed to increase and the glide slope will remain. Surprisingly, I'm not seeing any PAPI lights at the bottom of the runway yet, so they might appear later. Those are the lights that are white and red and indicate when you've got a mixture of both that you're on the right glide path, which is always a good reassurance. But we're coming into an airbase here. We're not coming into a civilian airport. So here we go. Now let's just review our options as we come in. As we come in, if we see any behaviour that we're not particularly happy with as we get closer. Remember, if you were flying a fixed-wing aircraft and you were coming in to land anyway, you would be looking to make a decision. You'd be wanting to see the runway on you, and so it's the idea of just following it straight in and the glide slope taking you down. That doesn't seem to happen with the H145 here. But this will take you really nicely to the runway's edge, so you can just get an idea of what the approach will look like. And what I like to do, I mean, at this point you could come off your nav and you could move on to heading and just maneuver yourself around the airport. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just demonstrate what happens if you just hang on for a bit too long. Things tend to get a little bit, this might be perfect, but things can get a little bit shaky. But there we are, coming in, just watching this glide slope here, and then I'm just going to, there we are, a bit bumpy, and I'm going to press Alt hold there. Okay, and I'm now holding the altitude, and I'm now reducing the speed right down quick as I can. There we go. And I notice this intersection here. And depending on the arrangements, of course, when you arrive, you're able to just move away. So if I click hover there, I'm in hover mode straight away. And of course that means that my altitude is now in my own control. I'll take altitude off and the altitude's in my own control. There we are. I've just trying to find out. There we go. So we just yaw to the right, shall we, and just come off. Now I'm actually in hover mode. I'm still working out this now. The ideal mode to be in is GTC mode, which is kind of almost like a taxi mode. We'll just click that and we'll just move ourselves forward. There we go. And so yes, I'm using the collective beep trims here. I'm manually controlling. I found this by the way, I mean, I've demonstrated what we're doing, but I found this these hover modes very difficult to get going. That the easier one is the GTCH, the hover mode, rather than the ground trajectory control is easier but far slower. But actually this is, I found, quite difficult. So if you click on this, there's a little arrow that can just indicate just how fast you'll be going, and then you've got this. There we go, and it's really easy to overcook this. There we go, just to demonstrate how hard it is. There we are, and if I click on GTCH, because I'm not in control, there you go. It's really difficult. So if anyone out there, I mean, I have got the controls quite sensitive, but it's not really making a huge amount of difference, to be honest. So there we are, much more comfortable in this hover mode here, even though things take an absolute age. So yeah, I don't quite know what's going on there. I don't know if anyone else has got this kind of issue, but Autopilot, actually controlling the aircraft in Autopilot and controlling the aircraft in speed is not too difficult. But as for controlling it in sort of taxi mode is a bit of a nightmare. Have to be honest. Could be more to do with my setup. I'm just using the tablet to do this. So this is not to do with anything in my flight control setup. The only thing that will be influencing this is the sensitivity. But yeah, there we go. So we can put ourselves down. I'm going to put ourselves down quite quickly now, really just because I want people to get a decent understanding of how long the video will last. So I'll just shimmy to the right rather than just carrying on. So just pray and hope that was helpful, folks. Take care, stay safe. We'll just put it on the grass here. There we go. Okay, there we are, all sat down. Hope you appreciated that. Just gives you a little bit of an indication. Any comments, put them in the comment section. Yes, I'm not an expert, don't promise to be one. Just do the legwork and sometimes work through the tutorials, try and find